Hello to you on this day. I want to talk to you today about something that I am very passionate about. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm a Beauregard resident, born and reared here. My name is David L. Jones. I went to high school here. I went to college at LSU Baton Rouge. I went to medical school at LSU in New Orleans. I did my residency at Charity Hospital in New Orleans, and I've been in practice here in DeRidder since 1975. Having said that, what I want to talk to you about is something that is extremely important at this day and time, and I want to talk to you about the COVID vaccine. First of all, if you haven't gotten it, you should get it. Now I want to tell you just a little bit of basic information. And after I do that, I've been given a few questions I will go down through and try to answer to the best of my ability. I would certainly refer anyone to the CDC website. The information contained there can change every day. It does change every day. So some things that I tell you today may change later today. So please take that into consideration. But let's talk about COVID. COVID is something that we got introduced to early last year, 2020. We had heard about it. We had seen masks in other countries. I didn't think we'd ever see it here, but we did. So in January of last year at Beauregard Health Systems, we began to prepare for COVID. What do we have? What do we need? What can we prepare for? And at the time we were doing that, we had no idea what we were getting ready to face with COVID. The main thing at that time was getting enough protective equipment to protect people who are caring for COVID patients. However, since COVID has begun, in the United States, as of today, we have lost over 583,000 people. In Louisiana, as of today, we have lost 10,463. Now, putting that into context, if you look at the city of DeRidder, that many people have lost their lives this year to COVID. Basically, we have an extremely good way of fighting COVID, and that's vaccination. So I want to talk a little bit about the products that we have available for vaccination. The first is a Pfizer vaccine, which consists of 2 shots, 21 days apart, and it's 95% effective. The second is a Moderna vaccine, which is also 2 shots, 28 days apart, and it's essentially 94.5% effective. The third product is the J&J vaccine, which is a single shot, and depending on the criteria you read, approximately 70% effective. Now, I don't think there's any need to get into the different types of vaccine, the messenger RNA, the adenovirus vaccine. What is important is that we have 3 extremely good vaccines, and I would encourage any and all of you to get whatever vaccine you can get. The vaccine, almost all of them, have the possibility of causing some side effects, which are generally temporary, lasting 24 to 36 hours, such as a low-grade fever, a little muscle ache, possibly a chill, that sort of thing. Headache also, easily taken care of with Tylenol, and again, usually gone within 24 or 36 hours. Now, what this is telling you is that your immune system is recognizing this, and it's beginning to fight it, and so you have an immune response. And the fever, the headache, whatever, is part of that immune response. It doesn't mean you have to have it, but a lot of people do have it, so it's nothing to be worried about. So what I want to do now, I have a list of questions that have been presented to me, And the first question is, how can we be sure that there won't be any long-term potential side effects of a vaccine that was produced so quickly and so recent? The way I would tell you is we don't know the answer to that because it's not known. We haven't followed this disease process that long. We certainly haven't had a lot of time to follow the vaccines, but the vaccine was not produced overnight. The development of these vaccines has been ongoing for approximately 1 or 2 decades, so it's not like we just produced something in the past month and we're trying it out. So don't be fearful of the vaccine. It's not produced overnight. There's been a lot of work had gone into it in the past years. The next question that I have, it says, what happens if I get vaccinated but get COVID later? Well, that does happen, and as I said before, the effectiveness of the vaccine for the Pfizer 95, for the Moderna 94.5, for the J&J about 70%. So some people are going to get the virus even though they've been fully vaccinated. While I'm talking about fully vaccinated would be 2 weeks after your second shot for the 2-shot series, or 2 weeks after the single shot with the Johnson & Johnson. So there will be people that get sick. However, the latest statistic I read was 2 1,000ths of 1% of vaccinated people that get COVID after the vaccine will end up in a hospital. So a tiny, tiny number would end up with a case requiring hospitalization. Most of them are very simple flu-like situations, hardly much to it at all. The next question I have, it says, do you personally and with your medical background feel comfortable taking this vaccine or having your mother or child take it? I personally have had the vaccine, the first dose the 17th of December. The second dose was approximately 7th or 8th of January. That's the Pfizer vaccine. My wife has had it. My daughter has had it. My son-in-law has had it. My son has had it. My other daughter-in-law has had it. And my 16-year-old granddaughter has had it. So they all have been vaccinated. And if my other grandkids were old enough, with their parents' permission, I would certainly get them vaccinated. So there's no question about that. The next question is, why is it necessary for people who have had COVID and recovered to receive the vaccine? Don't they have some immunity from the virus itself? And the answer to that question is they should get vaccinated, no question about that. They do have some immunity because they had the virus. However, the significance of the infection that they had will play a large part on developing or producing the immunity. So some people who have had COVID, proven COVID, but very mild case, will not have a significant antibody response. The vaccination produces a much stronger antibody response, and in reality, the first vaccine produces response. The second dose of the 2-shot produces a secondary vaccine response, so you get an extremely good antibody response, better than what you get from just the virus alone. The next question, how long is a vaccine effective in protecting people from the virus? We simply don't know the answer. We'll begin to know more about that in the year to come, but that's unknown at this time. I don't know the answer, nor does anyone else. Next question, they say the virus is mutating. Will the vaccine protect people from the mutant strains, or will they have to keep coming new vaccines? At present, the mutated strains that we know about are covered by the vaccines that we currently have. As far as mutations that may occur in a year from now or something like that, it's just too early to tell. I don't think it would be unlikely. I think it would be likely that we will have a booster vaccine, possibly on a yearly basis, but we simply don't know the answer to that. Next question, if a person gets the vaccine and develops symptoms such as a fever, is there any chance that the person could be contagious? Well, first of all, we need to find out if that person has got COVID. So it could be any of a number of other things, and the simple thing is you get a COVID test and find out if you're contagious or not. However, the information that we currently have is that a person who has been vaccinated is not going to be an asymptomatic carrier of the virus. We didn't know that a few months ago. That appears to be the situation at the present time. So as a vaccinated person, I don't think I am going to give it to anybody else. And next question is, are there traces of COVID in the vaccine? There are not. The COVID vaccination does not include live viruses. The flu vaccine does not include live viruses either. Many years ago it did, but doesn't at the present time, and certainly the COVID does not include live virus. Next question, if we've had both our shots, will we need a new one once a year? Again, I've touched on that. I think there is a possibility that we will need a booster shot on a yearly basis. However, we simply don't know. Next question, I would like to ask you about a person who gets a second shot. Some are coming up positive. Does this mean that they are then contagious to another person? If they got the second shot and they are a documented case of COVID, then they are contagious to another person. Remember, full effectiveness does not come until 2 weeks after the second shot of a 2-shot series, or 2 weeks after the single 1 shot. So that person would still be contagious and have to do all the right things as far as isolation. One of the things that I think it's important that you know is that if you've been vaccinated and you've been around someone who is COVID positive, you don't have to isolate. Secondly, as of today, the newest guidelines that came out from the CDC is that if you're vaccinated, you can safely not wear a mask in outdoor or indoor. The only restriction being some of the governmental offices or in medical offices where, regardless of vaccination, you're still required to wear a mask. In closing, I would encourage you to get the vaccine. It gives you a great deal of freedom. It will keep you from coming into the hospital and being in a serious situation where you may end up in the ICU. You may end up intubated. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. You should definitely consider getting vaccinated. Thank you very much. Please consider this information and do the right thing.